The howl of a wolf under a full moon is one of the most haunting sounds in nature. For centuries, it has stirred fear in human hearts, because somewhere deep within our shared imagination lies the idea of a man who can transform into a beast. A creature cursed to hunt, to kill, and to lose all sense of humanity. The werewolf. But where did this legend come from? And why has it survived across thousands of years, from ancient myths to modern Hollywood? To answer that, we must peel back the layers of history, superstition, and science. What we discover is chilling, because the werewolf was never simply a monster. It was something humanity itself created. The first whispers of the werewolf are as old as civilization itself. In ancient Mesopotamia, some of the earliest human writings describe men cursed by the gods to wander as wolves, stripped of family and home. To become a wolf was the ultimate punishment, exile from human society. In Greek mythology, the story of King Lycaon set the foundation for the word lycanthropy. As legend tells, Lycaon tested Zeus by offering him a meal made of human flesh. Outraged, Zeus transformed the king into a wolf, condemning him to live as the very beast he had behaved like. This myth established an idea that would echo across history, that transformation into a wolf was both punishment and reflection of inner evil. The Norse sagas told their own stories of men becoming wolves. The Ulfhednar were warriors who wore wolf pelts into battle, entering violent trances that made them seem more animal than human. These berserkers frightened enemies and allies alike. They did not literally transform, but their savagery blurred the line between man and beast. To their enemies, the difference hardly mattered. Across cultures, wolves embodied danger, power, and the wild. They hunted livestock, attacked travelers, and lived beyond the reach of civilization. For humans struggling to survive, the wolf was both rival and predator. And in time, the idea of men becoming wolves became a way to explain the unexplained. A body found torn apart in the forest? It could not simply be wolves. It must have been something worse, something half-human. With the spread of Christianity in Europe, the wolf took on new meaning. In Scripture, Christ described false prophets as wolves in sheep's clothing. Priests warned villagers that the devil himself could grant wicked men the power to transform into wolves. Wolves were no longer just predators of the wild. They were agents of Satan. Fear grew, and with it, the stories. When animals were slaughtered, when children went missing, when corpses were found mutilated, suspicion fell not on beasts, but on neighbors. Somewhere in the village, they believed, walked a werewolf. This fear exploded in the 15th and 16th centuries. Just as there were witch trials, there were werewolf trials. In towns across France and Germany, ordinary people were accused of transforming into beasts and killing for the devil. The most infamous of these trials was that of Peter Stumpp, a farmer from Bedburg, Germany. In 1589, he was accused of killing dozens of people, including children. Under torture, Stumpp confessed to making a pact with Satan, who gave him a magical wolf belt that allowed him to change form at will. His execution was gruesome, broken on the wheel, beheaded, and burned. To the people of Bedburg, he was not a man. He was the werewolf of their nightmares. But Peter Stumpp was not alone. In France, entire waves of werewolf trials swept through the countryside. Men, women, even children were accused. Some confessed under torture to running with wolf packs, to eating flesh, to prowling under the full moon. They were executed in public, their deaths reinforcing the myth. Yet behind these trials was something far darker than monsters. The accusations often targeted outsiders, the poor, the mentally ill, the socially unwanted. The werewolf was not just a legend, it was a weapon, It was a label that turned human beings into beasts so they could be destroyed without guilt. The question remains, if there were no actual werewolves, what explains the reports? Here, science offers chilling possibilities. Rabies, a disease spread by animal bites, causes victims to become aggressive, to foam at the mouth, and to sometimes lash out by biting others. In communities without medicine, such behavior could easily resemble possession by a wolf spirit. Another explanation is hypertrichosis, a rare genetic disorder that causes hair to grow thickly across the body and face. In medieval Europe, individuals with this condition were displayed in courts and fairs as curiosities, half human, half beast. To a fearful community, such appearances could only mean one thing: lycanthropy. Even food may have played a role. Ergot, a fungus that grows on rye bread, can cause hallucinations, paranoia, and violent convulsions. Mass poisonings created entire communities convinced they were surrounded by monsters. In a world without science, these terrifying symptoms fed directly into folklore. The werewolf was not simply myth. It was often the product of disease, misunderstanding, and fear. But the story does not belong to Europe alone. Across the world, legends of man-beasts thrived. In France, tales of the loup-garou haunted villages. In Slavic lands, the volkodlak blurred the line between vampire and wolf. In Native American traditions, the skinwalker was a powerful shaman who could transform into animals, often wolves or coyotes, through forbidden magic. In each case, the creature reflected local fears. In Europe, the devil; in America, spiritual corruption; in Slavic lands, the restless dead. The werewolf was not a single story. It was a mirror held up to each culture's deepest anxieties. The legend could have faded with time, but in the 20th century, it found new life in Hollywood. In 1941, the Wolfman introduced audiences to a cursed man who transformed under the full moon and could only be killed by silver. These rules had never existed in folklore, but cinema made them eternal. The film turned the werewolf into a global icon. From Lon Chaney Jr. to modern blockbusters, from horror films like An American Werewolf in London to pop culture in Twilight and Harry Potter, the werewolf became a star. But behind the silver screen legend lies the older truth, that the werewolf was born not from fiction, but from fear. The werewolf is more than a monster. It is a reflection of ourselves. It represents the danger of the wild, the loss of self-control, the fear of the outsider, and the darkness we hide within. For centuries, people who did not fit in, who looked different, acted different, or suffered strange illnesses, were branded as beasts. They were hunted, tortured, and executed in the name of superstition. The werewolf trials were never about fur and fangs. They were about power and about fear.